shortage of time. We had paper presentations from different parts of the country and also from outside. We had paper presentations from Ahmedabad, from Singapore, from Bhopal, Gwalior, Jaipur, Raipur, Hyderabad, Budhar, Satna, and Riva itself. Our Vice Chancellor, sir, directed and inspired us that we should give opportunity to our students also to present the papers so that we can prepare them for future. I'm very happy to share with you that out of the 24 papers presented, 4 were from students, 2 individual presentations from MBA students of this department, and 2 group presentations by the students of MBA HRD at the Study Center of Human Resource Development. So we had these technical sessions as active and as lively as we used to have in the physical conferences. The time was maintained. We had the experts' opinion, experts from Mumbai, from Jaipur, from New Delhi, from Nagpur, and from different parts of the country joined. Faculties from different parts of the country joined. From 6-7 different states, we had faculty members who joined. And the sessions have been done very well. We are satisfied with the way things have been going. We proposed to publish these research papers in the form of an e-book or one of the dedicated edition of our journal Vindhya Bharati, which is registered in University Grants Commission as per the permission of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir. Some of the presenters, some of the paper contributors were not given time to present their paper. Due to shortage of time, we could allow only 6 per session. But I can communicate to them from this forum that your full paper, after due check of plagiarism and the other aspects, will be published in the form of either an e-book or a journal of our own Vindhya Bharati, a special journal dedicated to this session. For the motivation and involvement of our students, we also had posters competition. I'm happy to share with you that 15 students have contributed their posters for this poster competition. We'll take 1 minute time to give you a glimpse of these 15 posters that have been prepared by our students. These students will be awarded first, second, and third prize after this conference. Convener of this conference, Professor Sunil Tiwari sir, has been very kind in organizing this event, as we did earlier also. And because of him, we could get 2 international experts, one in the inaugural session and one in the valedictory session. We all appreciate his active involvement in organizing this event. With these words, I welcome all the respected dignitaries who have joined us in this valedictory session. Professor Sonwalkar sir, our Vice Chancellor, Professor P.R. Agrawal sir, Professor P.S. Tripathi sir, Upasna Singh ji, Jagdamba Prasad ji, Rajesh Jaipuria ji, respected teachers from the university campus. Some of our experts from the other technical sessions have also joined this valedictory section. I welcome all of them. Thank you very much. Thank you for giving your valuable time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for these words. Now I request special guest Dr. Rajesh Jaipuria, sir, Vice President, Aroma, Association of Riva Outstanding Management Alumni, and Managing Director, Jaipuria Group of Companies, Riva, Madhya Pradesh, for his address, sir.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon to all of you. I've gone through the all three sessions, and first of all, I would like to uh, say thank our chief guest of this valedictory session, Jain Sonwarkar sir, and our humble vice chancellors and chief patron of this 3 days event, Professor Piyush Ranjan Agarwal sir, and the most important uh, dual pair of our department organizes secretary Dr. Professor Atul Pandey sir and our convener Sunil Tiwari sir. I am so much thankful to giving me opportunity to say in this validatory session. I would say in a few words, this is a very hard time we have gone through, and now gradually we are coming out of this. And I have seen in last 2 months in various business, I have talked to various segment of business, and definitely it's a very hard time for retail sectors. And affected sectors are like hospitality, hotel management, industries, aviation. It's a moreover affected, and education sectors are affected very much. Real estate and retail. So definitely it will come out because in these days we have become in 20%, 30% of our sale. And in coming time, we will overcome all this. And I would like to suggest don't move and don't switch over because some of the business sectors are moving here and there to change their streams. So I would like to say, please don't change and don't try to change. This is a time, ये बादल है छट जाएंगे. अभी मौसम बिगड़ा हुआ है मिजाज, लेकिन मुझे कहने में खुशी होगी ऐसे समय आए हैं और हम इससे आगे निकलेंगे. ठीक है, ये आंधी तूफान निकल जाएं ऐसे समय में, क्योंकि दिस इज अ पैंडेमिक फॉर द होल वर्ल्ड, नॉट फॉर आवर इंडिया ओनली. सो वी हैव टू हैव पेशेंस एंड थिंक एंड रीथिंक. ये हमारा एक सही टाइम है इंट्रोस्पेक्शन का, जिसमें हम अपने बारे में, अपने बिजनेस के बारे में, अपने वर्क के बारे में एक इंट्रोस्पेक्ट कर सकते हैं और सोच सकते हैं कि हम इसको कैसे इम्प्रूव करें. ये 3 दिनों का जो सेशन है, मैं समझता हूँ उसी एक थॉट प्रोसेस का है, क्योंकि एक विचार ही ऐसा होता है. विचार एक उपचार भी है. हम विचार कर रहे हैं और आने वाले समय में यही एक उपचार होगा कि हम इस पैंडेमिक से कैसे बाहर आएंगे. और एज अ बिजनेस एक्सपर्ट मैं इसमें यही कहना चाहूँगा, जैसे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया ने एमएसएमईज के लिए 20 लाख करोड़ का जो पैकेज दिया है, वो बहुत कारगर तो नहीं है, लेकिन फिर भी मरहम का काम कर रहा है. और आने वाले समय में हम इससे बाहर आएंगे. हमारे पास बहुत सारे चैलेंजेस हैं, जैसे जो कि हमारे रिहेबिलिटेटेड वर्क फोर्स है जो बड़े शहरों से छोटे शहरों में माइग्रेट कर गई है, उसको फिर से रिस्टैब्लिश करना एक बहुत बड़ा चैलेंज होगा. हो सकता है हम जो भी अभी मैन पावर बेस्ड इंडस्ट्रीज चला रहे हैं उनमें हमें ऑटोमेटेड या सेमी ऑटोमेटेड करने का मौका मिले, और हम उस पर भी आगे आएंगे. और मैं ज़्यादा समय नहीं लूँगा because we are running short of time at our validatory session. And I would like to say again thanks to all of our organizer, our departments, our Aroma members, and मैं Aroma वाइस प्रेसिडेंट की तौर पे दोबारा सभी को धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगा. और जयंत सोनवरकर सर को, our VC सर पीयूष रंजन अग्रवाल सर को, PS त्रिपाठी सर को, और हमारे उपासना सिंह मैम, जगदम्बा प्रसाद जोशी सर, और सभी को मैं धन्यवाद देता हूँ. थैंक यू सो मच.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to call guest of honor Dr. Upasana Gitanjali Singh Ma'am, University of KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa for her address. Can you hear me, ma'am? Dr. Upasana Gitanjali, ma'am. उनका microphone mute है.
Yes, good morning, ma'am. I hope you're able to hear me.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, you're
Yes, we
audible.
have.
Okay, thank you. Is my screen sharing?
Sure.
I'm not able to see my screen. Is it sharing on that side?
Yes, ma'am, it's shared. We can see that.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Namaskar and greetings to everybody from Durban, South Africa. I would like to thank VC Sir, Professor Tiwari, Professor Pandey. My greetings to all the respected dignitaries and everybody attending today. Thank you for having me at this valedictory session, and I'm honored to be presenting just a few of my thoughts on business survival during and post COVID-19. So just before we go into my sharing my thoughts, I come from the country of South Africa, which is way down south from India. And specifically, I come from the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and the city is the coastal city of Durban. So Durban boasts some of the most beautiful beaches, as you can see. And for those of you that are football fans, this is our soccer stadium that was built during the World Cup. So if you have never visited us, I hope that post the COVID pandemic, someday you will make time to visit us. The university that I lecture at is the University of KwaZulu-Natal. KwaZulu-Natal being the province that I stay in South Africa. And at our university, we have 5 campuses. So these are our 5 campuses. And I specifically work at one of the campuses, which is the Westville campus in the Faculty of Law and Management Studies. And I'm a senior lecturer in the discipline of information systems. So when I got the invitation to participate, I was very excited because this is very much into my field. I lecture to third year students or final year students on electronic commerce and the benefits and the advantages of moving to an online environment. So just to share a few of my thoughts, I think most countries have faced the scenario that we are all in, where we initially started off with a lockdown that was announced. And when lockdown was announced, it was a sudden event. Not many countries were prepared for it, and neither was South Africa. So when lockdown was announced, most businesses had to close their physical outlets if they had shops that were brick and mortar. And unless they sold essential goods or they were able to stock essential goods, they found that even if they had an online presence, there was very little that they were making sales out of. So they had to start looking for replacement goods that could be sold online. For example, goods that were essential items like food. Other items which were selling very fast were sanitizers, cleaning products, and those kind of items which they had to replace from their normal products that they would sell. They also found that they had to start engaging with different mediums in which to advertise and to market themselves. So they had to start making use of electronic channels, social media, and personally reaching out to customers in order to retain some of their market share. The two essential points that came out during COVID-19 for survival of these businesses was customer-centric policies and agility. So being able to adapt to the changing market was essential. So we had a company here which is called Yappy Chef, which deals with kitchen utensils. And when the lockdown hit them, they had to suddenly start looking at selling items that were not just kitchen essentials, but moving on to, for example, cleaning products, which they could sell to their customers and still get some market share. The other key element, which is not just with businesses, but I think in all sectors, even for us in the education sector, was the move to using technology. So in the business sector in particular, moving from bricks to clicks. So getting your products, getting your services, getting your market out there in an online environment. So what were some of the changes that COVID brought about? Firstly, it showed us that traditional supply chains were disrupted. So if you didn't have ways in which you could overcome this problem with the supply chain environment, if you were not a savvy entrepreneur and you were not able to find new ways to produce or package or distribute the products that you typically sell, then you found yourself out of the market. And I'm not sure what the status was in India, but in South Africa in particular, one of the essential items that faced this problem with the traditional supply chain disruption was package yeast. So powder yeast that we use to make breads was out of stock in the first few weeks of the lockdown, and that's because people were rushing and doing panic buying and stocking up on yeast because they were not able to go out to buy their daily bread. Changes that we saw were also in customer behavior, where we find now that people have come into a comfort zone of staying at home. If we don't have to go into the office, we still work from home. And therefore, we are preferring home-based activities, and this has resulted in an increase in online shopping. So some examples here in South Africa was when online shopping started for food and essential items during lockdown, we would often have to wait sometimes 8 days, sometimes 10 days for delivery because the shops or businesses here were not geared up for the demand, the increased demand in the online environment. Creative thinking is something that is absolutely necessary post-COVID-19. How are we going to be able to capture the market and still stay profitable in the future? So what has COVID-19 shown us? Some examples: closure of physical gyms, but in the interim, online fitness channels have been booming. The movie production area has halted. Movies are not being produced currently or not being shot currently, but online streaming is in great demand. Certain restaurants have now had to think of creative ways in which they can reach their customers. With sit-ins still closed in South Africa, takeaway and delivery options are open. So, for example, there's a restaurant in Cape Town that delivers Italian meals, and the Italian meal comes fully equipped with an Italian music playlist to create that environment in the home itself for the customer so that they can still experience an all-round Italian customer experience. So if we're able to think creatively, we can facilitate our survival in the market post-COVID-19. Helping small businesses survive, and this boils down to the point of empathy, mindfulness, compassion in the current environment that we're facing. So here we have an example. Spar is a supermarket in all over the country, but one of their branches, which is near Cape Town in Plettenberg Bay, decided to remove all their stationery products from their shelves, so that if people wanted stationery, they now had to go to the local stationer down the road, so they weren't eating away his small business. So they were trying to help small businesses to still survive in the market. And I think lastly and most importantly is the concept of this new employee dynamic. While for many years, some companies have tried to give people the opportunity to be able to work from home, especially we've had females, for example, being given the flexibility to take care of their children and to work from home. But COVID-19 brought about this drastic change of the work from home environment. So the shift towards remote work. And so now companies are starting to see the potential in the shift to working remotely, where they're able to reduce expenses in terms of office space, in terms of time that the employees take to commute. But they also have to look at employee HR policies with regard to this new dynamic. So how do we make sure that our employees are still accountable? What is the new dynamic that we have to work with in terms of HR policies? So in order to survive, businesses that use any form of technology, for example, using cloud computing, for example, using artificial intelligence, the use of automation, will enhance the resilience of that business and also help to ensure that the supply chain is maintained. So in conclusion, all I would like to say is that the global pandemic is really forcing businesses around the world to change how they operate. They also need to make sure that they can adapt and they can be more customer focused in terms of adapting to how customers are going to behave post-COVID-19. New avenues may open up, businesses may find new opportunities, but they need to experiment in order to survive. Nothing is going to be by the textbook anymore because this is an entirely new environment. So just to end, the only one constant in life is change, and if businesses cannot adapt to this change, then they themselves are not going to survive in the market. So thank you, sir, for the opportunity to present my thoughts today, and I hope that in the future I will have an opportunity possibly to visit your institution, and I welcome anybody from India who would like to visit us here in Durban, South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am, for very informative and knowledgeable words. Next in the sequence, now I would like to call industry expert Dr. Jagdamba Prasad Joshi, sir, General Manager, Transformation and Special Projects HR, Schneider Electric India, New Delhi, for his address.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me and can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. So, it's my pleasure and privilege to be part of this conference and be with you to share my perspective on an issue of global importance. So, due to COVID-19 crisis, the entire landscape of business is accelerating towards a radical change. And one of the biggest questions in front of us today is, do we have the right capability, infrastructure, or equipments to transform successfully and come out of this crisis successfully? I think if you look at the mega trends across the world, I think more than 81% of global workforce is impacted directly, indirectly because of the workforce closure and especially because of this COVID crisis. And I think more than 80% have companies, they declare they are having a serious issue of cash flow because of this pandemic. And in the HR world, and especially my focus is around the HR, I will talk more around the HR. And Forbes has also found out from the research, and everyone is experiencing about it, especially the HR managers and the business heads, that the future of workforce would be entirely different what we have today. And people at Dr. Upashna also rightly mentioned about the opportunities of remote working. And today we are also working remotely and working a new normal in coming ways. But if you closely look at the key forces which are shaping the new normal, and I would categorize them into four big forces. So one big force is around the metamorphosis of demand with increasing online customer engagement. If you see a lot of engagement happening through online around customers, engaging our customers through in our brand, products, services, and various other ways and means. And definitely because of this COVID crisis, the entire workforce behavior is changing and remote working is becoming a new normal. And government is putting a lot of right efforts and measures to survive the economy, and also helping or also putting some fiscal stimuli to improve the economy. And the fourth one is around the safety, health, and hygiene related. I think the norms around the safety and health, hygiene is going to be changed, and it is changing. Because as we know more about this corona, so I think the new norms of safety will come into pictures. So these forces are shaping the new normal, and these are pushing us to embrace the new normal. And what is this new normal is about localization. So all efforts are making India Atmanirbhar Bharat and the go digital. So digital is all about making all of us as a digitally empowered people or having a better knowledge economy. Businesses are also moving towards more on the variable cost models. And the fourth one is around the new ways of working. So which I'll be taking a few minutes more on talking about the new ways of working, which is part of our HR world. So I think overall, the organizations are also focusing on building a culture of trust. Definitely, organization runs on trust, and people works with each other on basis of trust. I think now the value of trust has gone up very high because of this COVID crisis, and organizations who are really working around trust, being very transparent with their people, with their stakeholders, are having a better chance of survival these days. So looking at the various new normal factors and building a culture of trust, and I think a lot of changes happening in the organization cultures, the dynamics and the processes and systems, and the purpose of existence is also becoming changed, and organizations are coming out with new ways of doing things differently so that they can come out with this crisis situation successfully. And what is this new ways of working in the HR world is the family of roles, if I put you across. So I think we are very used to of going to office, and we have a lot of roles which are there in the offices, which we call work on site. And now the shift is changing, so you will have more virtual roles existing in the organization. So I think we from last 3 months I am working from home remotely. So I think in organization also we are also identifying which are the roles can be permanently remotely working from home. And once we have those kind of remotely and virtual roles, their policies, systems, process will also be calibrated and evolved accordingly. I think there will be some roles which are hybrid, working from office, working from remotely, and a lot of flexi options and empowerment will be given to the employee in terms of flexibility and the way they want to do work. And the fifth role family, which is the gig economy. I think India is one of the biggest gig economy, and over 50% labor are self-employed, though they are underemployed. But I think this is going to be future with the involvement of high technology and better training, so their employability and the employment productivity will be increasing. The second aspect, which is going to be a new normal, is about solid working versus a new liquid working. So we are used to of having a solid working environment, but the liquid working is coming into a very vast, which is more capability and competency driven, where people with similar skill set will pool in together and execute that project and will go back to their respective departments. Organization structures are also no more be a very conventional structure. They are going to be changed. There will be a network based organization or the hybrid organization. I think these are the various changes which are going to happen. I think before COVID, there are many organizations, these changes were in their pipeline, or they were thinking about it, but the COVID crisis has accelerated the change process and given a challenge to organization. Either you quickly adapt to these changes or you struggle for your existence. So I think the biggest challenge or the opportunity for HR leaders is to look at the various aspects of it and recalibrate their policies, systems, and processes and offer the new workforce. I think these changes will also seen as a threat by some of the employees and people, but I think the right communication and messaging will really help to make the organization very strong and will help them to come out of this crisis very, very successfully. I think in last 3 days, I'm sure like a lot of deliberation would have happened there. What are the challenges and opportunities? What are the ways and guidance? I think the outcome of this conference would surely provide some guiding principles to each one of us, organizations, industries, institute, to really come out of this crisis successfully. So I'll just stop here, pause here, and would like to express my sincere thanks to my own university, APS University, Vice Chancellor Professor Piyush Agrawal sir, Registrar Sir Brijesh Singh sir, and our guest Dr. Jain, and special thanks to Sunil Tiwari and Professor Atul Pandey for inviting me or giving me an opportunity to share my views and perspective on this issue of global importance. And thank you once again, and over to you back.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views on issues of global importance and also mentioning that we have right capabilities to come out of this pandemic. New normal and Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you so much, sir, for your words. Now, I request the key speaker of this EVE conference, Professor P.S. Tripathi, sir. Before his address, I would like to present his brief profile. Professor P.S. Tripathi, sir, is MA Economics, MMS, and PhD from Banaras Hindu University. Specializes in the field of entrepreneurship and finance. He is the recipient of AICTE Career Award in Management. Dr. Tripathi has contributed extensively in national and international conferences, journals, and has conveyed several national and international seminars and workshops on the contemporary issues in management. He has successfully completed many research projects funded by UGC and AICTE. He has 3 books jointly authored with other colleagues. He has been Chief Coordinator, Entrepreneurship Development Cell. He has successfully guided PhD researchers in different areas of management. Dr. Tripathi, sir, is an expert member, Malviya Center for Innovation, Incubation and Entrepreneurship, Indian Institute of Technology, BHU. Dr. Tripathi is an expert trainer in the field of corporate, human values and ethics. Presently, he is also serving as the chief editor of Banaras Hindu University Journal of Management. With these words, I request you, sir, to please share your views and experience on this topic.
Good afternoon, Isha. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I'm extremely grateful to Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Piyush Ranjan Agrawal, an erudite scholar and very able academic administrator who is presiding over this function. The chief guest of the valedictory session, Shri Jayant Sonwalkar ji, distinguished academician and Vice Chancellor MP Bhoj University, the distinguished speakers from India and abroad, speakers from industry, the organizers of the beautiful e-conference, Professor S.K. Tiwari, Professor Atul Pandey, the registrar of the university, Dr. Vijay Singh, dear students and other participants in this webinar. I'm extremely thankful to APS University, Rima, and particularly to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Agrawal, for giving me this opportunity to place my thoughts before such an august audience. There is some advantage in being a speaker in the valedictory session, since the theme has already been threadbare debated in the 3 days. I do not think there is much that I can contribute. For the special attention of Professor Agrawal, I am reminded of a situation in Ramcharitmanas. अग्रवाल साहब, राम जी आगे जा रहे हैं, सीता जी बीच में जा रही हैं और लक्ष्मण जी पीछे पीछे जा रहे हैं। चित्रकूट की यात्रा हो रही है। लक्ष्मण जी नहीं चाहते हैं कि उनके पैर जो है श्री राम के या सीता जी के पैरों के ऊपर पड़े, पैरों के निशान के ऊपर पड़े। तुलसीदास जी लिखते हैं, सिय राम पद अंक बराए, चलहि लखन मग दाहिन बाएं। उनके पैरों के निशान को बचाते हुए वो चल रहे हैं। Perhaps this is my role. Most of the things have already been covered. So I'll be talking before you some issues that really need to be addressed. Now, COVID-19, we all know, is a pandemic. It's a very, very fearsome crisis for the whole country, rather for the whole world. And it has made the economy come to sudden halt. So sudden halt and the recession, there is a fundamental difference in the two. Sudden halt means whatever the material was there in the kitchen of the restaurants that got you say of no use over the period of 3 months of lockdown. Whatever the material was on the ports for export, that has also got say damaged. Whatever was incoming, that got damaged on the custom points. So economy is severely beaten and battered. The challenge before us is to bring back the economy to the path of progress and recovery. Now, the micro issues which have largely been addressed in different technical sessions, I leave that and I confine myself to 4 pillars, 4 basic challenges on which the entire superstructure of the business management microsystems bases itself. The first thing is how to reach out and tackle the psyche of Indian entrepreneurs. The second is search for a new global business model. The third point that I wish to address is critical role of public sector in such crisis. And fourth is the emerging trends in labor markets, not necessarily in that order. All this is subject to time that is permitted to me. Now, the first state of entrepreneurship in India, whether we agree or not, is the family entrepreneurship. You talk about Birlas, you talk about Singhanias, you talk about Goenkas, you talk about Ambanis, you talk about Adanis. Any group you talk, the maximum contribution to the GDP comes from these illustrious entrepreneurial families. The silver lining here is that these families have been adept or a kind of used to not depending too much on the exogenous support. They have their own methodology, they have their own systems, and whatever achievement they have achieved so far, that is despite the government. No matter who is in the government of the day, they have the skill to negotiate and come to the terms with the government of the day. Therefore, the first thing is that in bringing back the economy, this first year of family entrepreneurs is going to play a very, very critical and quick role. There is some reason for this hopefulness. We all say that the stock market is the collective wisdom that reflects the collective judgment and has the capability to read the fine prints of the future. Now, if I say that the entire capitalization at all major stock exchanges before COVID was 2.16 trillion, and the Nifty stood at 12,300 something on 14th July, and BSE was 41,900 on 14th July. It took a sharp beating of 40% in 23rd March because of the COVID, and Nifty stood at 7,610 and BSE stood at 25,900 something. So there is a straight decline of 40% in the value. But on 29th of May, Nifty stood at almost 9,580. On 4th June, it breached the psychological line of 10,000. And even yesterday, it opened at 10,013 and closed at 9,900 something, very close to 10,000. So is the case with BSE, that is hovering around 34,000, 35,000. And very soon, both the indices of the market are likely to touch the pre-COVID figures, that is 12,000 plus and 40,000 plus. Therefore, the first year of entrepreneurship is in full swing. The dynamo is working, and we are quite hopeful that shortly it will pick up. This is seconded by the stock markets as well. The second tier is micro, small and medium entrepreneurs, MSME. The package that somebody has talked about, 20 lakh crores, I don't think the entire package is a support package. Hardly 1 lakh crore of this is support package. Rest is sedative, or you may call it painkiller. So the government has to come up with more tangible policies to support these micro, small and medium enterprises. The schemes like Mudra or the 3 lakh crore package in the Atmanirbhar Bharat that the government has announced, yes, it will have some use, but the immediate difficulty is the liquidity crisis, the logistics disruption, and the market crippling. So whatever the government is thinking to do, it has to do as early as possible. We are hearing that they are coming with a third support package, but the time is less. And whatever announcement they say that they have broadened the limits of the MSME, say from 25 lakh to 1 crore or 10 crore or 20 crore for the respective sections, these announcements are good to hear too, but we do not know when actually they are going to be implemented. So there is a bureaucratic term, MAFA, mistaking announcement for action. So we have to be careful for that. And this micro section and small section of entrepreneurs needs critical help, immediate help, and urgent support from the government of the day. I hope the government will do something, because these sectors do not have even the alternative sources. They have to depend on the banks and financial institutions. And so the support has to come, and it has to come quickly in the form of liquidity. The third tier of entrepreneurship that I propose is the agripreneurs. The government has to do something to prop up this sector. I mean, agriculture has a huge potential to give solution to our many problems in a big way, provided we treat agriculture as an industry. We loosen the difficulties in the land transfer, etc. And we also treat farmers as agripreneurs, like we treat the people in the field of horticulture, sericulture, poultry, fisheries as agripreneurs. There is a need to treat the farmers, especially the small and marginal farmers, and the agricultural laborers that are into farming business on tenancy basis as entrepreneurs. Once we do that, then perhaps directly we'll be able to tackle three difficulties of the farmers. The first is de-risking the agriculture. Agriculture has the maximum risk in three shapes. One is the production risk, second is market risk, and third is financial risk. Once we treat it as an industry, we will be more into crop rotation, we'll be more into crop insurance, and we'll be more active working through the societies. It may be primary agricultural societies, or it may be any other shape of the small corporate entities. So the corporate risk will be minimized. Markets, yes, the government has loosened the Mandi Parishad of different states. Now the agricultural produce could be traded across the states. But the entity of national agricultural marketing through ENAM. ENAM has got to be activated so that the farmers could sell their produce. And the tragedy of the day is that agriculture is the only area where the pricing is done from the consumer's angle. In no industry, consumers, of course, you have to keep in mind, but the pricing is basically cost plus. But agriculture is one area where the farmers are the loser because the pricing policy is from the consumer's angle. So this we have to change. The pricing of the agricultural produce has got to be done from the angle of the cost plus pricing as recommended by the Swaminathan Commission, and whatever the government intends, it can provide the subsidy to the consumers so that the net effect is that additional prices are neutralized by the government subsidies. Similarly, financial risk, I'll say that supply of free power, supply of free other agricultural inputs or waiver of loans, these have vitiated the agricultural climate. You can take the case of Punjab where the extraction of groundwater is so much that almost we find a great crisis for a water-rich state like Punjab. Therefore, no freebies. The financial risk has got to be reduced through appropriate measures and ensuring that inputs are directly available to the farmers at the suitable prices rather than offering subsidies to the fertilizer companies or to pesticide companies or to other such units. So these three risks, production risk, market risk, and financial risk, if it is taken care of. The second thing is depopulate the agriculture. Government has to shift huge load of people on the agri sector to the agri-allied sectors. And once we encourage entrepreneurship into the agri-allied sectors, perhaps this depopulation of the agriculture sector would be possible. And third equally promising area is agri-exports. Today we have around 10% of exports from agri side of the total export, but we have a potential to raise it to the 20%, and Amul itself is a very successful example. Whatever we are exporting today is mostly raw material or semi-finished products. The need of the hour is to export value-added agri products, and for that we have to put in place the processing units across the hinterlands of the country. The third tier is the startup ecosystem. No doubt, entrepreneurship today bases its major gain on innovation and intellectual property, and startup is playing a very, very significant role. But the caution that I am giving here is that we at our place only run an Atal Incubation Center supported by Niti Aayog. And during the say post-lockdown period, we have pressure from the startups to open the place. But since the place is situated in a university setup, university has its own regulatory bindings of the UGC. Therefore, what I placed before you is that startups are paying a very, very heavy cost in terms of economic cost as well as human cost. And the entire ecosystem is least sensitive to particularly the human cost that startups are paying. The youth is wasting their cream period of the life, 5 years, 10 years, staging a dream, and perhaps the agencies are almost pathetic. So we need more sensitization to handle the startups, and we need more rigorous scrutiny to lessen at least this human cost of startups. The slogan that failure has got to be an inbuilt component of the startup, this macho slogan is good, but rarely we acknowledge that we can have the ways and means to support these startups in more effective and more systematic and more sensitive manner. Secondly, I would like to touch upon the labor markets. Somebody has said that the entire paradigm is going to change. No doubt about it. But again, I'll go to the traditional wisdom, and the labor had the aparokshanubhuti, first-hand experience of this. You see, in Yakshi Yudhishthir Sambad, a question that is asked, who is happy? Yudhishthir answers to that question, Panchame hani sastheva shakam pachati yo grihe anrani cha pravasi cha sa varichara modate. Hey Yaksha, even at the gap of 4 or 5 days, रोटी साग किसी के घर में बन जाए, but you don't have the burden of loans and nobody is living outside your country or your village, that is the person who is the happiest person. Now the labor migration has a very, very terrible side and first-hand experience of this tragedy and misery, which is beyond narration perhaps, because those who have really experienced those hardships, only they can have the pedigree to share those things. Otherwise, it will be hollow speech. Therefore, no doubt the labor paradigm is going to change. There will be more concern for health and hygiene, more concern for the insurance to protect the earning. We have the insurance for protection of the health if some accident takes place, but we do not have the insurance to protect the earnings. I remember that when the last few years, when the flood came to Bombay, many of the petrol pumps were shut because of the flood. Then the wisdom dawned upon them that they should take insurance to protect the earnings per day of the petrol pump. Similar could be the tax on the industry, where each industry should take initiative to take insurance and ensure the labor against the earning, that because of some difficulty, some COVID-like pandemic, if the earning capacity ceases or it gets completely blocked, then the insurance comes to the rescue of the labor force, at least for some time. Then another very hard lesson that labor has learned is that they have to nourish and maintain their roots to the rural areas, because that is the only place they have to move and take shelter in the times of misery. Therefore, this is a good thing, and perhaps the rural areas will have some advantage out of this hard learned lesson from the labor force. I'll take 2 minutes more, perhaps. I hope you will permit. The another issue which is very important is government has taken the advantage of this crisis to push through certain reforms. Am I audible? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Isha?
Yes, sir. Yes.
No, government has taken very smart advantage to push through certain reforms. Now, these reforms are very dangerous, I tell you. I hope the learned academicians have taken notice of this. Say, for example, the government says that in case of the essential services or strategic areas, maximum 4 public sector units will be allowed to play. Rest will be private and public will compete. That means all the banks will get consolidated in the form of 4 mega banks, and they will compete with the private sector. So will be the case with other sectors also. Now these are the reforms that cut both ways, and we have to seriously think about it. Similarly, what about education? Is it in the strategic sector? Is it in the non-strategic sector? Do we presume that in due course all the universities will be up for sale for the private sector, taking shelter of this reform? Therefore, to my mind, the responsibility to provide public goods remains with the public sector, remains with the government, and government cannot shirk this responsibility. Efficiency, yes, we all welcome. Private, we all welcome. But the basic responsibility, nevertheless, remains with the government. And finally, I'll talk about the very strange phenomenon that after great effort since 1995, through WTO, we have moved towards globalization, and we have quite smoothly standardized that pattern of globalization. Now with the pandemic like COVID, in fact, even before that, the symptoms were visible, but COVID has given the opportunity to move into the area, a direction of de-globalization. More and more countries, especially the leading countries like United States of America, Japan, UK, France, and even to some extent India, is thinking of protectionism rather than globalization. And COVID has also forced us to think not only of the protectionism, but even to some extent the autarky. Autarky means each country has to be self-sufficient, at least for the supply of critical inputs. Therefore, are we moving from globalization to protectionism to autarky? This is one big question that we have to think about. That means the entire phenomenon of international trade that bases itself upon the comparative cost advantage is perhaps moving towards the to the zone of autarky. So with these words, perhaps I'll sum up that the entrepreneurship needs to be propped up in micro, small and agricultural sector in a big way. Labor has to be given their due. New normals are to be defined both for white and blue collar workers. And the government has to put its foot forward to take responsibility of the provision of public goods to the people of India at large. They cannot shirk this responsibility. Of course, the entry of private sector and efficiency is welcome. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for the patient listening.
Audible? Thank you, sir, for sharing your knowledge with us regarding some very important issues of crisis like economy, the 4 basic challenges we need to develop to survive, labor migration, and most important, the e-globalization. Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. Now, I request Chief Guest Professor Glenn Sonwalkar, sir. Before his address, I would like to present his brief profile. Dr. Sonwalkar is leading educationist and leader in management science and practice with a rare distinction of having both corporate and academic experience. He has been director of All India Management Association, that is IMA. He has total experience, out of which 33 years of academic and 5 years of industrial experience. He has been a very senior professor of management at IMS DAVV Indore. In spite of being in academics, he has a distinction of always being very close to industry and has been active in the professional association like National Institute of Personal Management, ISTD, AIMA, and Indore Management Association. As a leading management faculty and researcher, he has published numerous research papers in prestigious journals, presented in national and international conferences, and written popular articles. With these words, I request you, sir, to please spare a few words. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. First of all, let me say greetings to Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, Dr. Piyush Ranjan Agrawal ji, to Dr. P.S. Tripathi, our industry expert Rajesh Jaipuria ji, Dr. Upasana ji from Africa, Dr. Joshi, Dr. Professor Sunil Tiwari, and Professor Atul Pandey, and Registrar Dr. Brijesh Singh. So thank you for inviting me in your 3 days conference. And it's a very apt subject and very relevant subject. And I must congratulate the organizers, the university, under the leadership of our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. P.L. Agrawal, which is going great guns. And amongst COVID also, they are trying to organize relevant conferences and involve people in the management science and other areas to keep updated themselves and also update their knowledge with the help of experts from various industries as well as academics. So since we had a long session, it was planned for only 1.5 years and that time is already gone. I will take only 10 minutes and briefly talk about challenges because this topic was challenges and strategies of business management post-COVID. So business management as a profession has a lot of challenges. Like Professor Tripathi has mentioned a lot about economy and the country and programs and everything. Or Dr. Joshi also mentioned a lot of things about how industry is moving and how industry will change in the post-COVID era. But let me confess this very openly that COVID is not yet over. And since it is not yet over, it is very difficult to say what exactly will happen post-COVID. We can only assume, we can only create scenarios. We can only see how things are moving in the present world and how things may change in the next 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, or 1 year down the line. But did we expect or even dream of anything like this, like lockdown for 60 odd days in the month of January? So in the month of January, February, March, we were all toying with the idea of how much will be our GDP in the world, and everybody has expected to be around 5.5%, 5.2% or something like in the world, and we were trying to claim that India is going to be with the highest GDP in the world, highest GDP growth rate. And India has been one of the countries in the last 7-10 years. Earlier, China was growing much faster than India, but last 2-3 years, 4 years, India was growing much faster than China. So here also, I'm not talking about what will be post-COVID, but what are the challenges? If management has to change, how as a student of management science, as a professor of management science, and as an organizer or as an entrepreneur or as managing director of a company, what CEOs should think, what organizers should, what CEOs of the organization in the private business as well as in government business, like chief secretaries, principal secretaries, and the vice chancellors in the university, what should they think about how to manage their own businesses post-COVID? This is only an assumption, as I told you, but this is going to be a trend, because we in management are fond of creating scenarios, and we do create ABC scenarios, we do create positive, pessimistic, optimistic scenarios, we do create all kinds of scenarios. We can say scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, which is highly optimistic, which is average, and which is highly pessimistic. So to me, one of the most important challenge will be maintaining the existing structures of the organizations. So because the workforce systems have changed, market position has changed, society has changed, the environment has changed, world has changed, market has changed, and global relationship has changed, because you just see how tense our borders are in the last 15 days. So world itself has changed. At one place, we have preferential agreement with China, and on other hand, our troops are almost fighting with each other. They are neck to neck with each other, and we are trying to drag them back. They are trying to drag us back. Of course, we all claim now it will not be 1962. It will be 2020 or 2021. So we all are ready for that. Our defense forces are ready. So what has a challenge? Challenge is maintaining the existing structure. Challenge is maintaining the workforce, as I think Dr. Joshi and others have referred already. Gitanjali also referred. Upasanaji also has referred. Virtual workforce is going to be replaced by the physical workforce, but not in manufacturing center. It is possible only in service sector. To some extent possible in also education. And I have been a proponent of using online resources in education for almost 15 years. I've been proposing and trying to promote that. And I must tell you, I was not getting good response from people. Whenever I used to tell, why don't you have a video conference system and organize and invite people from foreign countries to share their thoughts with, or even other top institutes in India to share their thoughts with our students? People used to say, "Arey sir, it's very difficult now, how to organize, and there will be bandwidth problem and this problem and that problem." And to my utter surprise, COVID has forced them to use a technology like demonetization or monetization has forced us to use online payments. So automatically, we are all online. This conference is possible through virtual mode only because this lockdown has told us the methodologies of still continuing our activities. So, of course, so it has changed the method we interact. It has changed the way workforce is going to work for you. It has changed the market positions of the company. We see so many companies are going into doldrums and so many companies are growing. Yesterday, there was growth, or in the last 7 days, there have been a growth in share market in India because we see very good results coming up in spite of the fact that 2 months, 3 months, there was a lockdown. So people there in foreign investments are coming, and one after the other, Reliance Industries are getting investment from all corners of the world, and it is in the race of becoming the largest telecom company in the world. So things are changing. The other challenge would be maintaining the revenue. First is maintaining the organization and organizational structure, and second would be challenge before the management or management science or the management as a profession will be maintaining the revenue of the organization. Finance management, we have not been doing in budgeting. We have not been doing a lot of emergency fundings. But now the emergency has come and we never dreamt of it. Suddenly till January, till February, we were not even talking about such kind of emergencies. And suddenly we found that the revenues has stopped coming. And if revenues are just not coming, then how the company is going to, corporations are going to survive. Same is true with social organizations, same is true with the service organizations. So the whole model of financial planning will change. So in financial planning, we have to change a lot of things. Like we are only looking for workforce management and other things. Now we have to see for virtual structures. So now work culture is the third challenge, is how to maintain and change the work culture. Because in organizations, the work culture is going to be different. Now people used to, we were, when we joined management profession in late 80s and early late 80s, we are giving the examples of Japanese management, that CEO sits with the workers in the canteen and he takes his lunch or lunch only in the canteen in the form of in the same dress. We used to teach about these things about Japanese management. Now those things are things of past. It is a thing of history. Now we have to teach them how to be at distance and also connected with each other. So those canteens, flooded canteens with the workers, a lot of noise in the lunch times are not going to be seen anymore. They are going to be history. They have to be one person at one bench. Like for examinations we are preparing in the universities, there used to be 2 or 3 students on a bench, 2 students on a bench, and now there will be only 1 student. So work culture, workplace environment, everything is changing. Another challenge is adjusting to new environment, because in this environment, we whether we want to talk about it or we don't want to talk about it, people do feel unsafe. Safety is a major issue. Physical safety is a major issue. Now, all those people, we are lucky that in India, the pandemic did not have that much atrocities, but still, our death rates in India are very low, but still the people who get affected, sometimes we see that within 24 hours, 48 hours, we see bad news about them. So once you are affected by the virus, we don't know what is going to happen. So we have to there is only one thing which can save you: keep away from viruses, and to keep away, you have to wear gloves in the offices like I am wearing right now at this point of time. I have just taken off my mask because I have to speak, so I just took out my mask. So work environment is changing and we have to adjust to new environment. And what is going to be the new normal, we don't know still, because let the pandemic be over and then things will decide, then environment will decide, the time will decide what is going to be the new normal. Then next important challenge is adhering or adjusting to new technologies. Because new technologies, like people quickly, softly, smartly adjusted to webinars. People softly, very smartly adjusted to other technologies online. So they are watching web series and so many things, and a lot of new markets have come up. So new technologies we have to adjust. We have to incorporate social distancing, which I would call it a physical distancing, because if you are socially distanced, then nothing can move. So physical distancing, norms, new words, new terminologies have come up. How many of us had heard of PPE before coronavirus or pandemic? How many of us knew about our immunity, and how many of us we were doing pranayams every day to increase our immunity? So lifestyle has changed, environment has changed, society has changed. The moment you walk out of your house, everything has changed. So you have to adjust. These are the challenges to adjust to them. And we see, unfortunately, so many suicides these days because of depression. We just saw some instances from film industry also, but other industries also we saw a lot many instances. So people are not able to adjust to. So human factor is changing very fast, and we don't know what's going on in anybody's mind. So new technologies at national level and international level. So how many of us, because I just, as a Vice Chancellor, I'm getting about 20 mails every day, people saying that our company is organizing online exams, proctored exams at distance. So please take our technology, online, take LMS, learning management system, learning content management systems for your students. Because I'm in a distance education university, they approach more to me than other vice chancellors. So that is then maintaining the national growth is also going to be like as Professor Tripathi has paid a lot of attention to this aspect, and mostly he has talked about the country and country's growth. So because exports are going to be challenged. Being a professor of international marketing, I love to talk about this area at length, but there's no time at this point of time. But that is going to be because distribution is a challenge. People are not, containers are not moving. Ships are not going, because in a ship, what I'm talking about is the civilian ship companies, even our defense forces, even our navy is getting affected by coronavirus, and all people from the ships have been, all ships have been evacuated where there is a single case of coronavirus inside the ship. Because once you are inside the ship, and in commercial ships also, once you go out for 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, you don't know what's going to happen. So those things, national growth, are going to be an issue, and you have to talk about strategies. So let me come back to quickly strategies. And first and the most important challenge, as well as the strategy one has to create, is how to keep yourself sustainable. We have been talking about sustainable environment, environmental sustainability almost for now 30-35 years. But for organizations, it has been a very serious issue right from the day human civilization, but it has become more pertinent now because of the environmental challenges, because of, we don't know. We never knew about COVID, we never knew about lockdown, we never knew about stopping the production for 70 days or 90 days. So we have to talk about how to make our organizations sustainable, which we have been talking about it, but now the strategies have to be focused more to strategies, sustainability, than to anything else. And how to, all strategies are going to revolve around how to make organizations sustainable. People are finding new products. You must have seen sanitizers you have not used, you have not seen at so many, in large quantities what you are seeing today. All the things have come up, showers of sanitizers, entry points, and all new products people have come up with. Again, I'll come back to technologies. Like these technologies, new technologies coming, and people are even talking about, we had heard of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, but now people are talking about using blockchain technology for education industry. People are talking about all kind of, you see, Byju's and all education companies coming up. You are all already watching on your televisions, but new technologies will come up and they will take over very fast things. So strategy for new technology, all those companies whose products are related to technology and can change by technology must pay highest attention to technology. India is, people always criticize India for not spending a lot of money or very small amount of national budget for research and development, not even to 1% of our GDP. But now we'll be forced to put a lot of money on GDP, and especially Atmanirbhar program if we want to do a self-reliant program, and we really want to become Atmanirbhar and take advantage of COVID situation where most of the top 500 companies want to move away from China and they are looking for other new places to other new countries to establish their their companies. Now this is the situation where our new strategies at a country level, at a company level, at individual level, new strategies to adjust to the environment, to develop new technologies, to adopt new technologies, and to develop product according to the new technologies. So online things have come up, social meetings now, social media has become more important. Now you saw that our internet users were running around 40-45 crores before COVID, and during COVID suddenly it went up to 84 to 90 crore. 90 crore is the world's largest. China's internet population is 90 crore. So we have already touched during the COVID 90 crores. So there is no, we don't think that we are not far away from a time period or day when our internet population will cross 100 crore mark. And once we cross 100 crore mark on internet, all companies in the world will come only to India and start doing marketing there. Then strict control over the bottom line finance will be again the strategy. So strategies now are going to move around sustainability, on bottom line finance, on new technologies, on R&D, and on new ways of marketing. Because new ways of marketing are now coming up, and one has to, we have to go through, like we have to think out of the box, and what people thought about blue ocean strategy, we have to follow that path and find out about these strategies. Since Dr. Jagdamba has already talked at length about human resource strategies, so I'm not going into details of that. And then let me come back to the end of my discussion by saying only scenario building. Scenario building has not been used by many industries or many corporate houses, especially MSMEs in India, because in MSMEs, they are very, all resources, human resources, technical resources, strategic resources are so scant that they do not get opportunity to create scenarios and think for very positive, average, and very negative situations, or ABC, or any kind of strategy. So now scenario building is going to be most important for everyone, whether you are in a service industry or any other industry. So these are few areas in which strategies will grow. And these are few challenges which overall challenges before the management science. Because if management has to come up with such, because what we are teaching our students today in 2020, and we are preparing them for 2040, but we are teaching them from the books written in 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, and 15. So material which is available for up to 2000 to 2015, if we are teaching our students from that material and trying to prepare them for 2040, I think we are at the wrong place. We are doing not justice to our job. So our challenge is going to be how to prepare our students at this point of time and how to prepare our students for future. So with these words, I thank the organizers for organizing a beautiful and very apt conference. I thank Honorable BC Sir, PR Agrawal Sir, and all the dignitaries present today as a speaker, as listener, as organizer, as co-organizer, as convener, and so for being with me. And thanks to Registrar Sir also, and to all speakers for inviting me at this conference. And I wish you best of luck. And I have already heard Atul saying that he is going to e-publish and take some ISBN number also for all the papers. So thanks to everyone at APS University. And I love to be with all of you physically also, and I have been coming. But now let's have this kind of e-meeting. And thanks for inviting me there. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir, for upgrading all of us with your knowledge and sharing your views on challenges of COVID-19. Thank you, sir. Now, I request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Piyush Ranjan Agarwal, sir, for his presidential address.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I welcome first my colleague, my Professor Jain Sunwalkar ji, Vice Chancellor Bhoj University. I welcome Professor P.S. Tripathi, my very good friend, old friend. I also welcome and thank both the head of the departments, convener and secretary of the organization, Professor Sunil Tiwari and Professor Atul Pandey, who have been working for last 2 weeks continuously to organize this program, 3 days event on a very large canvas. Earlier I have seen Professor Anjali Srivastav, the Dean, College Development Council. I also welcome her. I welcome Dr. Rajesh Jaipuria, who is from the industry and the alumnus of the department. I've heard Dr. Upasana Gitanjali Singh from South Africa. I've heard Dr. Jagdamba Prasad Joshi ji. I am seeing on the screen and asked Dr. Atul, Professor Atul, to introduce me. Mr. Pandey, Binay Pandey, Mr. Mandal, and Dr. Mahesh Chandra, who has been continuously there on the screen. So I welcome them on behalf of the university. I welcome all the young, I've forgotten Mr. Joshi. Mr. Joshi has given very good input to the entire activity. And I have noted down a few points for Mr. Joshi. I welcome all the young faculties. I welcome all the young faculty who have been involved continuously as a team, the IT team, the research scholars, the students, the alumni, the participants, the delegates, the faculty members of the university and from other places, other countries, other states, the industry people. So what I'm finding that this e-conference is becoming more an emotional conference for the alumni. And I'm seeing the faces of them. They are introducing themselves, which batch you are belonging to. I'm reading their note. I'm enjoying that note also along with that. A lot of points have come up from the country, within the country, across the country, from the industry, from the academia. Very importantly, Indian economy has started looking into itself, where we are. You see, very dark days we have seen the first fortnight, where large scale migration is there during the lockdown to laborers to their own land. If you compare the US society and Indian society, USA has been facing, in the name of racism, lot of unrest, social unrest, because they are from the capitalist economy. India is a country which has always followed the mixed socialistic pattern of economy, where agriculture dominates over the entire society, entire economics, and more than 58% of the citizens are in either cultivators, farmers, farm laborers. They are embedded to their own land. But peacefully they have handled, peacefully they have managed, peacefully they have accepted and started adapting to this situation during the COVID and post-COVID. So how we can fortify the situation? In my inaugural address, I have talked about how the fall in oil price has given gain to Indian economy next to next quarter. How the fall in interest rate in LIBOR is going to give boost to the investment in the country. So many things we have discussed. Today I am saying that number of HR people are there. They have to change their attitude. One thing, Mr. Joshi, you have spoken about, one thing earlier Mr. Prasad has spoken about, you may go for the automation. You may go for the robotization of the entire manufacturing process. But Indian economy dominates with 60% of GDP contributed by service sector. And the contribution of the manufacturing sector is 15%. The agriculture is less than 15%. So this workforce, whether skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled, remain very important too. I've talked to so many my students from MNIT and Sagar University. They are based across the country. And there is a news coming in Faridabad, Gurgaon, that very senior industrialists have left their Mercedes vehicle in their bungalow and taking a mask, going outside the labor market to search out the laborers themselves, how to start their manufacturing process. So very relationship we have developed that we are following the Minimum Wages Act. From my gate to gate, there is a relationship. Now this has to stop. You have talked about the trusteeship. I just appreciate this word trusteeship. You have to recreate a trusteeship in a different manner now. These laborers are no more a component of our manufacturing machine. You have to make them a family member, paying them not only in terms of cash. You have to create a confidence for your long-term sustainability, that you have to provide them housing, you have to provide them health, you have to provide them education, you have to provide them hygiene, you have to provide them security, you have to provide them all that facility their family needs, their wives, their sisters, mother, father. So when we are talking about the change in organization, the change has to be looked into in a very holistic manner. Because what I'm seeing that once they're back to eastern part of the country as a laborer, you have to recall them. One part is the majburi, but majburi cannot create another strength in your industry. Sustainability needs not the majburi. Sustainability needs the trusteeship you have talked about. So it's very clear that Indian economy still sustains with the input and influence of the kind of workforce we have. I'm just reminding you about the few banks and organizations 2008 during subprime. Most of the multinational companies who have their offices in Gurgaon and across the country suffered because they fired their employees. But many, and they shown the pink slip, but many of the Indian industries, they simply live with that situation and giving the temporary layoff, forced leave, without pay, without promotion, without increments, all that. And the result has been industries who could retain their manpower, they recovered faster. And the industries who fired their employees, they could not regain. But investing in a human resource has a very long gestation period, not in terms of cash cost, cash outflow, in terms of, it is the case of gestation period. So this is the time organization has to share not only the profit with their employees and workforce, they have to share their agony also along with in reversal. And if you could create new confidence, naturally things will improve. A lot of things have been told about how we have changed from bricks to clicks. Very importantly, it is not new to India. In 2017-18, in the international market, the largest merger and acquisition happened when the Walmart taken over Flipkart. The largest amount of 1,10,000 crore was paid. And it is, when I just calculate how they have paid 1,10,000 crore to Flipkart, they don't have infrastructure, only few, where they have invested the manpower, the network. In e-commerce, again, HR is important. The network of employees are important. They know the addresses of their customers. They know the addresses and the income profile, the taste profile, the consumption profile of entire mohalla. So what I'm finding here, with 23% of household savings rate to GDP, India has no dearth of land, no dearth of capital, and now no dearth of technology. Technology could be imported, could be developed, could be bought, but the trusteeship has to be created. And this is the time when we have to invest our employees, we have to recheck where we have defaulted, that out of agony of epidemic, they fled, we could not provide them security. Hopefully, there will be a national consensus on these issues. And I again remind, robotization of the entire process is never possible. Indian segment, in Indian market, Indian economy, OB plays the important role. Your decision is based more on OB than the facts. Because here people believe in culture, believe in religion, believe in their society, believe in their family, believe in their people, believe in their land, believe in their soil and ethics. So we are very different from the Western world. What Professor Sonwalkar ji has mentioned about the new chapter we have to write. The old books are not going to do. And this chapter, Indian economy will write. what Professor Tripathi has mentioned about our positioning as an Indian agriculture, positioning in agriculture economy, I can say this is not the time for top bottom. This is the time for bottom up approach of your new planning. Organization has to revive. It can revive, it can sustain, it can proceed. Only when you can check with that how your organization revamps with your own people. You have trained for years, you have invested for years, you have created trust among them for years. This is very important. And I think if by 31st March 2021, last quarter, the companies can, firms can, a small retailer can, a small business can break even their balance sheet. Last quarter, they can recover their costs. They will be the gainer. This is not the time for growth. This is not the time for fresh investment. This is not the time for going for diversion of technology. Not possible. This is the time for revival. And revival can be there if we look into. And many of the speakers talked about introspection. Very rightly it has been said. This is the time for introspection. I thank Professor Sunil Tiwari. I thank Professor Atul Pandey. And firstly, the organizer, the head of the department, the faculty, that they have organized a very beautiful conference, very meaningful 3 days long conference. I thank my chief guest, Professor Jan Sonwalkar, who took only a few seconds to say yes. I thank Professor Tripathi, my friend, that who said take hardly few seconds to say yes. I thank all those who are present, that they have given long time, though I'm feeling a little bit tired because last 2 hours, 45 minutes, I'm with you as a host, Vice Chancellor. I cannot ignore my guests. So I have to remain with the screen, and a lot of things I have to do now in the office back, sitting at least till 8 p.m. to dispose of the thing. And one thing I'm finding as an outcome, other than literary one, Atul and Professor Sunil. Atul, I'm saying very difficult to say Atul, Professor Atul, because he has been a student. I have been coming as a visiting faculty to this department. So I have to be very artificial in saying Professor Atul. I'm very natural saying Atul. So I think Atul will not mind about it. Professor Sunil Tiwari and you could make this platform onto new, make this platform on 2 new directions. First, your need for alumni meet is not going to begin with. And another is the Industry Institute interaction, III cell. You have revamped with this conference. And naturally, the quality of presentation I have seen, the quality of input I have given. Thank you, Professor Tripathi, for joining me. Thank you, Professor Sonwalkar, for joining me. All the guests from overseas for joining. And behind the scene, the young faculty, the guest faculty, the research scholar, your MBA student, the participants who have invested a lot of time. We have enjoyed well. A very meaningful conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
जी सर, प्रोफेसर जैन सर बात करते हैं। जी जी।
नहीं सर, भाई सर महेश द्विवेदी।
हाँ महेश जी बताइए प्लीज। We could be little informal, no problem.
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल सर, पहली बात तो आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर, आपने बहुत अच्छा हम लोगों का ज्ञानवर्धन किया। सेकेंड थिंग कि मैं आपका 2 बार स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ। 1985 में इलाहाबाद यूनिवर्सिटी में बीकॉम करते समय, और एपीएस में आप विजिटिंग फैकल्टी में आते थे, तो मैं एमबीए का भी आपका स्टूडेंट रहा हूँ। और आज मेरा सौभाग्य है कि
एक्चुअली हम यहाँ पर जहां तक मैं पहुंचा हूँ, उसमें प्रोफेसर वीसी सिन्हा को मैंने पहले दिन याद किया, आपके साथ में फिर याद कर रहा हूँ। यहाँ तक पहुंचने में प्रोफेसर वीसी सिन्हा बहुत बड़े मेरे मेंटर रहे, और मैं हर समय उनको याद करता हूँ। जी जी। और मेरे ख्याल जितने भी आपके एलुमनाई ग्रुप है, दे ऑल रिमेम्बर हिम, है ना? हाँ जी। थैंक यू प्रोफेसर।
सर आपके लिए हमारे दिल में बहुत रिगार्ड रहा है, और आपने हमेशा अपना अच्छा स्टूडेंट ही हमें माना है, और आज भी वही मानते हैं, इसलिए मैं बहुत बहुत आपको सर आभारी हूं।
मैंने अतुल को फोन करके पूछा, आई एम सीइंग मिस्टर महेश श्रीवास्तव इन सिंस बिगिनिंग, तो यू इंट्रोड्यूस मी। तो मैंने नाम नोट किया, तो उन्होंने आप लोग नाम भी दिया कि एलुमनाई की बड़ी भारी लिस्ट है। तो मैंने कहा थोड़ा मैं इनफॉर्मल हो जाऊं कि सिर्फ लिस्टेड लोगों को, इम्पैनल लोगों का नाम ना लूं, आप लोग का नाम लो जो लोग स्क्रीन पे हैं, और विशेष रूप से कन्वीनर्स हैं जो आपके प्रोग्राम को कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, उनका नाम नहीं ले रहा हूँ, since Vignam Singh conveners are doing very good job, those who are working as the say conducting the program. Atul, you can proceed now.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, VC sir. बहुत ही अच्छा.
Thank you, sir, for stopping our blessings. Now I request Professor Atul Pandey sir, Dean, Faculty of Management Studies, Avdesh Pratap Singh University, Rewa, and Organizing Secretary of this National E-Conference for his vote of thanks.
Thank you, Isha. In a very short duration, I would like to thank all the guests. First, the three topmost dignitaries, today's chief guest, very versatile, Sir Jayan Sonalkar sir, key speaker, very learned, Professor P.S. Tripathi sir, our inspiration, very dedicated, Professor P.R. Agarwal sir, all the experts, Dr. Jagdamba Prasad Joshi, Dr. Upasana Singh, Dr. Rajesh, Mahesh Dwivedi ji, Vinay Pandey ji, Amito Mandal for joining from Kolkata, our Professor Sunil Tiwari sir, all the resource persons, all the tutors and all the participants. But thanks are to Professor V.C. Sinha sir, who established the institute in such a way that we could organize this event of 3 days e-conference. We never had confidence of doing it so big. We did it physically, but this confidence was given to us by Professor Piyush Ranjan Agarwal sir. I would like to take 1 minute in the end to show you the faces of the team that has been working behind. I would request Seshpal Namdev to show the photos of those teachers. We have been coming on the screen, but you can see these people. Dr. Seshpal Namdev holding hands. He is the technical support who has been running all the show. Besides him, Dr. Ashish Pandey in cap. Besides him, Dr. Amit Srivastava, and to my right, Dr. Anand Singh, Dr. Alka Digwani. Next slide, please. Dr. Isha Kaur, Dr. Srivastava, the beautiful voice that you have been hearing most of the time. This is Shweta Kotwani, and Pooja Mishra, our very young faculty, Harshit Singh, Pankaj Singh, and all the teachers of this department. They have been working very hard behind the curtain. I would like to thank them very much. They could not come onto the screen. Dr. Deepa Saxena, I just missed. Her photo was there in the last pic. Please go back to that. She was standing in the center. Yes, Dr. Deepa Saxena and all the teachers, they have worked very hard. And I would like to thank Almighty for giving us confidence and for all kind of support, that there was no technological failure. We had a lot of apprehensions. We are thankful to one and all. Thank you very much. We are thankful to our Mother Earth. हमारे भारत में हम धरती माँ कहते हैं. इस कोविड में भी मेरा विचार ऐसा है कि हमारी माँ जैसे हमारे घर की माँ होती है, कभी कभी हमको छोटा पनिशमेंट देती है, एक चाटा मारती है, बिहेव योरसेल्फ. ऐसी हमारी माँ पूरी ह्यूमैनिटी को एक छोटा सा पनिशमेंट दे रही है इस कोविड-19 के फॉर्म में. A very small microorganism has brought humanity to its feet. The most powerful humans who could take all the ferocious animals, they had all atomic energy, all nuclear power. They are helpless. So Mother Earth is saying to all the humanity, behave yourself. Eco balance is very important. Otherwise, bigger problems can come. So I request Mother Earth with folded hands that please spare us, and we'll all, as humans on this earth, who take care of you and take care of each other. With these words, I thank each and everyone. Thank you very much for making this event successful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
अतुल, आप उनको भी दें जो पार्सल बाहर से आए अक्रॉस द कंट्री, उनको भी थैंक करें.
मैंने बोला I thank all the presenters and all the participants. We had participation not only from inside the country but also from outside the country. We had participants from 14 states, I said in the beginning, and from 6 countries. We had presentation even from Singapore. Dr. Pallavi Singh presented from Singapore, and we had our experts from outside. So I am thankful to all the invited guests, all the presenters, all the participants, all the alumni, and all the members of the faculty and from the university campus, all the teachers and all the officers, and especially to our Vice Chancellor, sir, once again for giving us confidence that we can go ahead with 3 days event. I said in the beginning, we had courage only for 1 day event, seeing all the webinars, but he said, you can do it for 3 days. And I'm very happy we have been able to do it for 3 days successfully. Thank you very much to each and everyone. Thank you so much for joining. Please do join us in our future endeavors. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
थैंक यू अतुल सर.
Thank you so
बहुत
much.
बहुत बधाई है सर.
Thank you, Dr. Suresh Pandey. He is in National Level Institute of Carpet Management at Bhadohi. He also presented a paper. He is with us.
Thank you, sir. ये आपकी
Coming out.
विनय सर आपको भी प्रणाम. विनय सर.
Thank you to Vinay Pandey ji. He is GM Corporate Affairs, Aditya Birla Group. Actually, because of shortage of time, I was not taking all the names. Thank you, Mahesh and Dwivedi ji. This event is formally over, and till people leave, we can continue our conversations. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you to our convener, Professor Sunil Tiwari. He invited us all the time. Thank you to everyone.
Atul sir, you have veto power. You have veto power at any time. At any time you can give me order.
Video. I would like everybody to see his face. He has been working behind the screen all the time, all this technical. So he is the leading face. Now his screen is being shared. You can appreciate him. He has been there working hard all 3 days and even before that. Thank you so much. So much to everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you to Sunil Tiwari, sir, and your entire team for this
Thank you,
successful
Dwivedi.
event. And I wish you all the best, sir. And you have all the power, veto power. Anytime you can call me, and you can
So
give
much.
me any assignment. I will try to accomplish, sir.
Thank you, Amitav.
Thank you, Amitav.
Thank you, Amitav, for joining all the way from. Your mic is muted.
You want to speak? Just unmute your mic.
अब करेंगे. हाँ. Action. Yes. Thank you to my family also. They have been watching us live. You can see my son Saksham Pandey's photograph on this frame. Thank you so much to all of you for your support, for bearing me these days.